everybody? I'm Vince. This is Mr. Jason Pryor, so gracious to welcome us in today. He is a licensed professional counselor, and we're going to talk about counseling, therapy, all those things. Also, we're going to make ourselves some lunch, some oxtails, some gravy, some peas and rice. Sit down and talk about all the things that you may need. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We're going to get started on our lunch. So we're going to do our oxtails. We'll just cut up some vegetables. Okay. It's going to be some extra seasoning for our oxtails. What's your preference? Onions or I'm doing onions? You do. So just going to do some strips. Strips big or as small as you would like. And then just push them to the side. Okay. Just keep going. All right. Can you cut and talk at the same time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Where are you from?
I'm actually from here, from Richmond.
RVA in the building?
Yeah, I'm actually from a little small town outside of Richmond called Montpelier, Virginia.
Wait, you said you're from Richmond, but you said, yeah. So is Richmond like Atlanta, everything out? I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, my family is from Montpelier, but I grew up here in Henrico County, actually, in Richmond.
All right. So we're going to teach you some knife skills right now. Improve that a little bit.
All right.
So these are chef knives, and the design of the chef knife is to rock. So you don't have to chop. You want to let the knife do all the work.
Okay.
That's going to be easier for you, and you'll have more control.
All right.
So you're just going to rock, start at the tip, come down, and you have more control that way. Yeah. So you cut the slices, then when it falls, then you just cut those.
Okay.
One thing I did forget to mention is you want to cut the seeds and cut the core and the stem and all that. So seeds, I don't mind seeds so much. In Henrico County, that's where you grew up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever lived anywhere else?
We lived in Chicago for a while. We lived in Augusta for a while.
Augusta, Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay.
My father was stationed in Heidelberg, Germany. He's in the military. So we moved around quite a bit, but my mother got tired of moving. And so she wanted to be closer to her family, and we ended up coming back here to the Richmond area.
Okay, nice. This is where you went to school and college?
Well, I went to college in South Carolina. I actually went to undergraduate at the school called the Citadel, which is a military college in Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. I thought you was going to say University of South Carolina. We're not going to hold that against you.
Nah. Didn't want to go to South Carolina. I actually had some offers from North Carolina State and places like that, but going into my senior year, I hurt my ankle. So
offers for football?
Yeah, some of the bigger schools kind of backed off after that.
So you were on your way to the pros?
Yes, sir. We made it work, different experience at a military college, but we made it work.
Okay, so how in the world did you find your way to counseling?
So that was actually a career change. I had been doing a lot of sales work before that, and I found myself in a situation to have to change careers because I was doing financial services, and it's kind of a cutthroat business.
Yeah.
And so I asked, what would you do for free? And I had always loved volunteering, working with kids and stuff like that. I had been doing that since I was about 18. I said, I think it'd be a good idea to go back, get the credentials behind me. And that's what I did. It was the best decision I ever made.
Do you have a specialty?
Well, technically my specialty is substance abuse, but if I really had to say I had a specialty, it's just helping people recognize their potential.
What does it have to do with therapy and counseling?
Oh, wow. So
we'll get there.
Understanding your potential has a whole lot to do with therapy, because a lot of us lack confidence because of different things that have happened to us in our lives, whether it be something traumatic or, just the environment that we grow up in.
Okay.
So that can have a toll on your confidence, and having a lack of self-confidence is one of the biggest things that we see in the counseling community. That's even for people that don't consider themselves having issues, right? They still have times where they have self-doubt. And so they'll come, to talk about those things that cause the self-doubt.
Okay. So for somebody, like I have some family members who have everything going on, I don't mean me, how do they even decide that I might need that?
That they might need therapy?
Might need counseling, therapy. Wait, let me backtrack. Is there a difference between therapy and counseling?
Well, technically there is. So therapy really is the process. It involves the treatment. Counseling, I won't say it's like advice, but it's guiding people in the right direction. So there's a subtle difference between counseling and therapy.
Do you decide which one they need, or does the person?
That really depends on the therapist. Everybody has their own different style, different approaches. For me, with everybody that I see, I try to set up a individual plan for them. So it really depends. Some people come in and they say, Doc, I just want to get things straightened out in my life as far as the order that I do things, make better decisions. And then there's some people that actually have some mental health issues. So you have to, work out those type of things according to how the person is.
So as a person who's advising that person, when you hear, I want to get some stuff straightened out in my life, I'm hearing something totally different. I'm like, get your act together. What do you hear?
All right.
Like, I know you hear something different than us.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is, okay, I have some doubts, right? There are some things that probably happened to me in my life. There are some things that trigger me to have certain reactions. And so I'm looking to uncover all of those things. Once we can uncover those things, then we can look at working on them.
Let me help you with your child.
Yeah, because I'm over here struggling a little.
Nah, you're doing just good. This is the G League for the Food Network. You just come to develop your skills here. All right, so you're good. So next thing I need you to do is throw a little seasoning on these oxtails. So our oxtails are already cleaned. Mm-hmm. We cleaned a lot of fat off of them. And so you definitely want to do that otherwise. So we're making some other oxtails with a little gravy. Okay. And so you want to clean some of the fat off so it's not too oily. Okay. So it cooks down, which takes a long time. So you're just going to, you can dump some of that in your hand, sprinkle, and massage it.
A little. How much is a little? 'Cause
2 tablespoons.
As you can tell, I'm not.
Just dump it in your hand, palm of your hand.
I'm not very comfortable in the kitchen. So.
Yeah, you're good. You're doing great. More than that.
More than that?
Yeah, more.
Okay.
That's good right there.
All right.
And then you're just going to sprinkle it on there, and then massage it into all of them. Yeah. Perfect. So this, the lack of confidence you say you have in the kitchen, is that the thing you see in people outside of the kitchen or that come to see you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody has some level of fear of something. Okay. All right. So it's trying to identify those fears and then learning how to work with it so that the fear pushes you forward instead of stands in front of you.
All right, that looks great.
All right.
And so what we'll do next is we're gonna get some oil going in the pan.
Okay.
We're gonna brown. We're gonna actually sprinkle a little bit of flour on there.
All right.
So, and this mason jar here.
Okay.
Let me get this for you. And then we're gonna massage this on there because this will help to brown our oxtails just a little bit better than by themselves. But either way, people have their preference. In the country, they use, if they're making smothered chicken, coat it, fry it, put it in a pan, let it go in the oven for a long time. So we're just gonna massage that in, and then we will start on searing our oxtails. Grab my pair of gloves. So we're gonna get our vegetables. So you're gonna give a good healthy squirt. Our pan is hot. A good healthy squirt to cover not quite cover the bottom, a little bit more, because we're gonna make our, okay, that's good. And we're gonna cook our vegetables and cook our oxtails in, so, and in the same oil. So that's good. Some red. We're gonna save this. All right. And we're gonna let these simmer for a second. And your seasoning there, open that and give like a little bit of a pinch. So that's gonna season that as well. Yep.
About that much?
That's good.
All right.
Boom. All right, we are on our way. So you were telling me about treatment plans. How do you customize treatment plans for patients, clients? Clients. That you see.
Yeah, so everybody is going to have, some similar issues, but everybody's an individual. So you kind of have to look at how to reach that person and how they receive the information. That's really the most important thing. The relationship between the counselor and the client is the most important part of treatment. Because if you don't build a rapport with the person you're working with, it's not likely that they're going to really share everything that they need so that you can assist them. So that's the real main thing. So you kind of have to reach them where they are.
How long does it take before you can say, like, this is what's good for them, or this is how, my treatment plan is going to work well for them?
It depends.
Wooden spoon there?
Really depends on the person, because some people, they don't trust you, right? So it may take you a little while. As far as diagnosis wise, and this I would definitely tell the public, if anybody that you go see says they can diagnose you the first time they see you, run from that person.
Leave that office.
It can't be done. You really need time to get to know somebody to really diagnose what their issues may be. So,
all right, you good? We're gonna let that sit. All right. So once you kind of have an idea about the diagnosis and all those things, what's the next step for you and for the client?
So for me, and I usually discuss this when we do an intake session, I like for my clients to be engaged in their treatment. Okay. So I'm going to find out a lot about their likes and dislikes. The things that they like, we're going to incorporate that in their treatment plan, because it makes it easier for them to talk about, their feelings and different things like that. The things that they don't like, I'm certainly going to avoid. Right? If it's their first time being in counseling, I'm going to go a little bit slower with them. If they've been in counseling before, I'm going to ask, okay, what didn't you like about your experience before? Or what didn't you like about your previous counselor? And once I get that information, it kind of gives me an idea of where to go. Then it varies based on age, too.
Okay.
Because with a 3 or 4 year old, of course, you're not going to be able to counsel them the same way that you would somebody that's 25 or 50.
Okay. So for people like me, the first time you hear about counseling, or you consider going, or you have no idea, and you're thinking, it's like what you see on TV, this guy's gonna come in here, I gotta lay on the couch, and he's gonna be like, tell me how you feel, and he's staring at me with his pen, and how do you get people to see what it really is, and that is not that?
All right, so...
You know what I mean? Because people think that's what it is.
For me personally, one of the things I do is I tell them right from the beginning, I'm not your traditional type of counselor.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you need to do this and you need to do that. I never liked being told that I need to do something when I was growing up, right? So I wouldn't expect anybody else to receive it any better than that. Okay. So what I would do is ask them, what is it that you want to gain out of counseling? What do you want to see that's different in your life?
And that way, get their expectations up.
Right. Because I need to know what it is that's really troubling them. And part of finding that out is finding out what they want. Right? If you don't know where you're going, what your destination is, how are we going to work to get there? So that's the first thing that we establish. And then we'll start looking at, okay, what has been some of the things that you tried? Were you successful with those things? Because sometimes the biggest thing is just taking a step to come to counseling, especially in our community. There's still a huge stigma about going to sit down and talk to someone, especially amongst Black men.
Why do you think that is?
Just because traditionally, and I'll just say it like this. In my generation, I'm 51 years old, so...
You're an old man.
Yes. I'm a young elder. That's the way I like to see it, right? So with my generation, most of us that were taught by men, we were taught by men that were sons of men who were still fighting to be recognized as men.
Yes.
Right? And so they couldn't show emotion. They had to be stoic. They had to, be strong. They couldn't show any form of weakness. Right? And so because of that, that's been passed down. We're not quite in that same position that we were in before. I won't say that a lot has changed, but enough has changed where we really don't have to have that super masculine exterior any longer, right? And so because there's still this thing of, what happens in my house stays in my house, that type of thing, people don't really want to go talk to somebody.
So I gotta cut you off. How do we balance the older generation with the new generation, because back then it was like what they had to deal with was, our great-grandparents still picking cotton in the field.
Right.
And so what they had to deal with in their everyday life and what they passed on to their sons 2 generations later is not very much, it's not a lot of time, 100 years, it's like 2 generations, but everything is so dramatically different. How do we balance what they tried to teach you from the past and incorporate that into what's happening in today's society?
Really, we just have to talk about it, right? So a lot of us now have been like raised by our mother, right? So we didn't have access to talk to men about certain things. We really have to start, if I could say this, a rite of passage, right? Where there are older men that gather younger men, teenage boys, together to have certain conversations. We kind of lost that in our community. And it's had a major impact.
Do you think because we don't want our kids to experience what we had to go through,
Absolutely.
the negative, people don't see the negative effects of that?
Right.
Like, they have it just a little bit easier, but they don't understand what it is to struggle, persevere, how to, the old school people say that stick-to-itiveness.
Right.
And to fight their way through stuff.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think we have to have more of a balance of not wanting to eliminate challenges for our children, but to teach them how to navigate them. Right? And in every walk of life, even if you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you're gonna face some form of adversity in your lifetime.
Yes.
Right. And so if you've never dealt with that, say you're used to getting everything that you've ever asked for. The first time somebody says no, you're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to navigate that. Right? So we have to learn how to talk to our kids early on. Right?
That's the key.
Start early. Start absolute early. It's much easier to build a strong man than it is to repair a broken one. So it's much easier to build a strong man than it is to repair a broken one.
So we're going to turn our oxtails because we're just really browning them, and the time in the oven will create our gravy, our sauce, and
Man, that's already smelling great.
yeah. And the vegetables will just kind of season the oil. So that'll have some flavor, but we're going to put it all back in and keep going. So we're going to do this in batches. We'll put that in there, get rid of
All right.
get your back. So I hear you talking about men. Is that a focus of yours? Is that a hot button kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a personal thing for me, right?
Okay.
And the reason for that is when I was in school, the first thing they told us is that if you're going to be a counselor, you need to get a counselor. That you need to start talking to a therapist. So I started my search for a therapist, and
Therapists have therapists. Counselors have counselors.
absolutely. And if you don't have one, I feel sorry for you, right?
Okay.
And the reason for this is that everything is energy. Right?
Okay.
Everything is energy. So I'm receiving people's negative energy all day long.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot to
Right.
carry.
So I have to have somewhere to place that. Otherwise, I'll get burned out and I'm no good to help anybody else.
Okay.
So I have to have somewhere that I can go talk about some of the things you deal with. Because you hear a lot of things that, for some people would be horrifying. You hear about things that have been done to little kids and all of that type of stuff. And so to take that in all the time and not have a release for it, that would be a problem.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't imagine. I can't imagine just having to hear that all day, every day, and
You learn to manage it. But they told us this, right? Preparing us for the fact that you're going to take in a lot. And so I started my journey in looking for a therapist that I thought, would understand me.
We did.
And that might have, shared in some of my experiences. And I couldn't find anybody. Or I could not find anybody. Because what you'll find is that all the licensed therapists, there are only about 5% of us that are African American.
Are there a lot of men that do what you do?
No. So out of that 5%, maybe 1.5% of those are men.
Wow. Are there a lot of men in Virginia here that do what you do?
To my knowledge, in this area, there might be 10 that are licensed. There's people that are becoming licensed now, but there's really not many.
And out of that, not very many black men.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, there's not many black men at all. Sometimes some of my colleagues, we kind of laugh and say we're unicorns, really, in this field, because you don't see us all. But we're definitely needed.
Definitely needed.
Right? Because who would you, if you were going to choose a counselor, who are you going to feel more comfortable with?
Somebody who looks like me.
Right. Somebody who you think might have shared your experience.
Share my life experience.
Yep.
And
so they're going to understand some of the things that you're going through.
when you interact with your clients, do you factor in race and all those things?
Absolutely. They actually make sure that we have cultural competencies. So in the event that you're attempting to counsel someone that you may not feel comfortable in understanding their ethics, understanding their culture, you're advised to either refer them to someone else or get assistance in doing so that you're always protecting the client.
Have you ever come across where has a client, I don't necessarily identify with that stuff you're talking?
Yeah, right now, I've actually never had that issue.
Okay.
I've been able to work with everybody that comes in. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you think as a man of color, your life experience has helped prepare you to deal with other races more than if it was the other way around? Like we were joking earlier, like they said if somebody said, I hear a shot, without thinking, everybody gets on the ground.
Right. So
other people are going to be looking and get shot.
Absolutely. What I would say is that as an African-American male, right, just in living here in America, you've had to learn to make adjustments.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you've had to learn to make adjustments. You've also had to understand the majority culture so that you can survive in it. So that in itself kind of helps me navigate things a different way. I practiced a few different religions in my lifetime, right?
Okay.
And so because of that, I've learned different cultures. Being a military brat, I've always been around people of different cultures. So it gave me some experience in, dealing with people from all walks of life.
Okay. So we're going to get our gravy started for these oxtails.
Okay.
We're going to need another squirt of oil
right.
in that jar with the flour that I had.
Okay.
No. That's good.
All right.
So we're going to sprinkle this in. And so we want to have enough to where it kind of clumps up. So if it's just kind of loose like this, it's just going to be an oily mess.
Okay.
So you want to sprinkle in or measure half and half, equal amounts, but that's a whole lot. Grandma and them didn't have no measuring cups. That's right.
Absolutely.
So, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to let this actually brown.
Okay.
And so that's what's going to give us our color and the seasoning that got stuck to the pan from the oxtails and the vegetables. That's all in there. We're going to let that brown a little bit. And then we're going to use beef stock and flour. That'll thicken. We put it in the oven, let it simmer a couple hours, and we'll be ready to eat.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to finish these oxtails, get them in the oven. Stick around. We'll be right back. So we're going to make two things at once.
Okay.
We're going to make some sauteed collard greens, and you're going to make some peas and rice.
Okay.
Like all food, people will say, that's not how you make that. Just like you have your own style of counseling.
Absolutely.
You have your own style for making your recipe for your peas and rice.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to start with our onions. You can throw your onions in there. Me, I got some onions. Just the onions.
Oh, just onions.
That's the whole thing. All of them like that.
Okay. That's it. We'd be here forever with me, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So we start with that, and I'm gonna have some rinsed red beans.
Okay.
You're gonna throw that in there.
Whole can?
The whole can.
All right.
All right. And you're gonna give it a good about tablespoon of seasoning. So we got our seasoning that's the same throughout. Just in your hand right there. Dump that in. Give it a stir. Boom. Perfect. All right, give that a stir. And we're gonna let our onions sweat a little bit, get a little soft. Then we're gonna add our rice and our liquid.
Okay.
So for me, I'm gonna add our smoked turkey, which is already cooked with our peppers and onions. We're gonna let these simmer down. We're making all this great food. What role does food play in mental health? Should we be saying mental health, or what role does food play in all of that?
Food plays a huge role. Thousands of kids are misdiagnosed with ADHD every year, simply because they have a diet that's high in sugar. All right, so if you've been giving kids, let's say, highly refined carbohydrate sugar, and then you send them off to school, how you think they're gonna behave when they get there?
They're gonna run 1,000-mile an hour, then sit down.
Right. So they're getting assessed under those conditions, and people are diagnosing them with something that they don't even really have to deal with.
Do you think the parents know?
Probably not.
Okay.
Right. Especially if you're in a situation where you feed what's convenient, you feed what you can afford.
Yeah.
Right. So that plays a big factor in it. But yeah, food does a lot as far as mental health. Hydration is a huge thing. When you're dehydrated, you automatically go into slight symptoms of depression because your body is not functioning in the way that it's supposed to. Right? A lot of things that we deal with mental health is basic brain chemistry.
There's people eating bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Believe it or not, people eating bad can it won't cause you to have a mental health issue, but it can exacerbate issues that you may already have.
Now, do you think because our food is designed, like today's food is designed for convenience, do you think people realize convenience is costly? And how come it doesn't seem like back in the day, our grandparents didn't really have the same mental health issues, and it would appear they were dealing with things that were just as stressful as what we're dealing with today?
Right.
The food, or
part of it is what they ate, right? Now we have a lot of food that's processed.
Okay.
Right? And so it's already stripped of the nutrients that we need. So having a lack of nutrients, again, it's going to affect your brain chemistry. When your brain chemistry is affected, it's going to affect how you behave. So,
gotcha.
But also with them, getting up sometimes they have to produce their own food. All right. So you're getting up earlier. You're doing, physical work, right, which also can help your mental states. All of those type of things, and then not eating things that are artificial. Huge difference. Huge difference.
Convenient.
Yeah, convenience is, in my opinion, convenience is the enemy of progress. Right? When
In every sense of the word?
Every sense of the word. Think about it. When you're comfortable, do you really want to do anything?
You make no effort at all.
At all. So it's learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? When you learn how to push through that type of stuff, it helps create balance for you.
Okay.
I've never known anybody to accomplish something great being comfortable.
That I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. All right, so for your beans, give them a stir.
Okay.
Our onions look like they're doing pretty good. It's all right if they're sticking a little bit. That is cool. Camera, quick. Short on the mason jar. So since we are going to do our 2-to-1 ratio mix, we're going to use coconut milk and water for our liquid. So
All right. We'll start with just the coconut milk.
pour that one in. So we're going to hit that line there. And then one more. Watch the lid, yep.
Oh.
Uh-oh. That top, is that all of it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we're gonna pour that in, then we're gonna fill this up again and add that in as well. So that'll be our 2.
All right.
We're gonna let that simmer. And then fill it up one more time with some water.
All up to this line?
Yep.
All right.
right, you can give that a stir, and you're gonna want to add some more of your seasoning in there, just a little bit, just a little bit. Yep.
About that?
That'll work. Okay. It's the remix. You can make it however you like. All right, so we're gonna let that get to a simmer. Okay. We're gonna add our rice, stir it in, cover it, let it go for 20 minutes. Our rice will be ready.
Okay.
Same for our greens. So, all right. Back to convenience.
Okay.
The internet is very convenient. For us, we had to know the Dewey Decimal System.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Nowadays, they've coined the phrase Google it. How does, not just the internet, social media,
yes, sir.
People hiding behind the, anonymity of being online, how does that affect our mental health and the person on the other end of those keystrokes?
Okay, so I won't demonize social media, but it definitely has had an effect. There are studies that have shown, increase in anxiety, increase in depression, both in adolescents and adults as a result of social media, right? Because how many times do you actually see people posting things that are not good?
All day, every day.
Right? A lot of times people are promoting that they have this wonderful, great life that's not realistic, right? Because some people, you may actually know them, and wait a minute, man, that's not their life.
That's not your car.
Right.
Yeah.
And so things like that put pressure on people, especially younger people, because, I was 18 before. When I was 18, I was in a rush to do everything. Yeah. I want to accomplish this by this age. I thought 40 was ancient at 18, right?
100 lifetimes.
Absolutely. So that gives people a false narrative. And then that affects them because if they're not doing what they think they should be doing, or they're not doing what they see that person appears to be doing, it makes them depressed. Why can't I do that? Why I'm not on that level? How come, and there's the self-doubt that comes in. So when I say the first thing I want to do is show people their potential, right? Is to help build their self-confidence and understand that, you have within you the possibility to achieve things. Right now, you just don't believe it, right? Or experience has taught you that, no, that's not you, that's for somebody else, right? So we have to uncover those things and get rid of. A lot of times we have what's called automatic negative thoughts, and it's based on experience. Well, I've never seen anybody from my neighborhood accomplish this, so I know I can't do it, right? That type of thing. So we have to unlearn a lot, and that's really where I think most of the breakthroughs in counseling come. It's the things that you unlearn. Because you develop, certain habits that are blocking you from being the best that you can be.
How do we as parents help our children with, number one, having a stronger mental toughness? That'll be the first. And then how do we help our children build self-esteem? Because they will believe people outside the house more than in the house.
Right.
So how do we, how do we get them
Well, number one, you gotta love on them, right? And
what does that mean, love on?
Okay, so I heard Malcolm Jamal Warner say this, that you have to love on your kids so much that their greatest fear is to disappoint you, right? That it really doesn't even take anything physical. Their fear of disappointing you will keep them on the track that you kind of lay out for them. And so what I mean by love on them, give them attention, listen to them.
When you say give them attention, do you mean like give them everything they want?
Oh, no.
Oh, not that?
Definitely not that, right? Because that creates entitlement.
So
and that's
every pair of Jordans that they want.
No, you certainly have to start early with telling them no.
Okay.
Right? But don't just say no. Also explain why the answer is no. A lot of times we don't take the time to explain things to kids because we don't feel like they understand, or, they're kids. So I'm not concerned about what they're thinking. But we have to realize that they're always watching.
Yeah.
Right? So they might hear what you say, but they're watching what you do.
So your actions have to match your words.
Absolutely.
As a kid I grew up with, my parents would say, or my mother specifically would say, do what I said. the answer is, you know what I'm gonna say? Why have to do that?
Right.
What would she say?
It should, because I said so. Right.
So
But you need to change that to an explanation. Right. Adults don't feel like they should have to explain anything to kids.
because kids just stay in the kids' place.
Right. But if you explain it, right, I know you have a brain in your head. And I've talked to you about why this is. So we should be able to get past that now. Because I've explained to you is for this reason and this reason and this reason. If something changed, then maybe that answer might be different later.
So you honestly believe kids have the mental capacity to understand and process all of that? They're just selfish.
It's not that they're selfish. It's just I don't think we give kids enough credit for what they can handle. Kids are more resilient than what we think.
Yes, they are.
Now I think if we challenge them more, we'll get more results from them.
Okay.
It's just sometimes we don't, again, convenience, right?
Yeah.
It's easier for me if I'm trying to teach you how to do something and you're not getting it right then. Mm-hmm. It's easier for me to do it for you because I don't have time. I got to go do this. I got to handle this. I got to handle that. I got to handle this thing. It's easier for me just to do it and be it out the way. And then they grow up to be 19, never having been taught how to do these things. And because they're 19, now we expect them to know.
We expect them to do it.
Right.
But we've always been doing it.
But we've always done it for them. Well, how come you don't know how to do it? You never taught me how to do it. You told me, but you didn't teach me.
And I showed you, but you never gave me the opportunity to learn it.
Right.
Okay.
It requires patience, right? But patience and inconvenience don't always go hand in hand.
That is true. That is true. So we are going to finish up our ingredients here, take a little break, and get ready to sit down and have some lunch and finish this conversation. Stick around. We'll be right back. So, thanks for helping me make lunch. Everything so far has been pretty delicious. We're going to dig in and continue eating.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's eat a little bit. Let me know what you think. I'm trying to be nice, so you should just pick up the whole thing and stick it in my mouth.
Oh, man, this is wonderful. Yeah, this is incredible.
How do we get people in today's society to confront issues like head on instead of going around them? You know what I mean? People just kind of I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, and that's tough, right? Because I think in this day and age, again, back to convenience, people are looking for the convenient way to handle things. And facing something head on is really not going to be the convenient thing. The hardest thing in the world, as silly as it sounds, is to look in a mirror, right, and talk to yourself, which is one of the things that we actually do sometimes in people's treatment, right, with learning to do affirmations. The affirmation to say it is easy, but to look at yourself and see your facial expression and hear those words come out, it's a feeling of awkwardness, right? And I've done it myself. It feels awkward when you first start doing it. But the more that you do it, the more that you hear those words, your subconscious actually starts to believe it. The more you start to believe it, the easier it becomes. But it's a tough thing to look at yourself, But most of the answers that we seek are internal.
And we're always looking outside. And
we've been conditioned to look outside for answers. All the answers are within, right? It's just like you can simply change your language and change your thought process. Most people, when they have an issue, they ask why, right? I always suggest to my clients to try to remove why from their vocabulary.
Why?
The reason for that is this. Why only leads you to what you think you know, right?
Okay.
But the way, your brain is beautifully designed, the mind is a wonderful thing. When you switch that from why to how, the question how automatically triggers your brain to go through all of the data that it has ever accumulated, seeking that answer.
Like, how did this happen?
So
How was this?
right.
Okay.
How is a whole different process. Why? I don't know why, right? That's why we're having this issue, because I don't know why. So I get stuck at a dead end. I can only go to what I know, but how will take you beyond that. Because now it's looking for solutions. It's not looking exactly for the cause. It's looking for the solution to the issue. Little stuff like that. when you're speaking about, spending time, or who you spend your time with, we hear the word spend. If you think it from the standpoint of money, when you spend something, it's gone, right? You only get whatever the thing that you're purchasing. You don't expect anything more than that.
Right.
But if you say, I invest my time with this person,
I expect a return.
you expect a return, right? That's a different thought process.
Yeah.
So most of what we deal with is perspective. And the secret to that is, if you say I can't do something, you're right. If you say I can do it, you're right. You're always going to be right. It's just a matter of how you view things.
It's all about perspective.
All about perspective.
Which is different than perception. How?
Well, your perception can be based on how you understand things.
Okay.
Right? Your perspective doesn't necessarily have to relate to just what you see. That can be based on what you feel and what you believe, right? If you're, let's use the word manifestation, right? If you're trying to manifest something into your life, you can't go based on what you see in front of you. You'll never get there, right? But if you see it in your mind and you believe it strong enough, and that causes you to make the effort to achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve, even though you visually can't see that happening, you see it in your mind's eye.
But you'll create the path to make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, cognitive behavior therapy is based on the concept that...
What's that again?
Cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
And that's usually the baseline of most therapy. It's based on the concept of what you believe will alter your behavior. So the way that you think is going to change your behaviors. When you change your behaviors, it's going to change the outcomes.
Yep.
And so that's it's a simple concept, but a lot of people don't really accept that, it's just that simple. But it really is. If you don't mind me asking a question, what got you into cooking?
Me, I'm from a very large family. Mm-hmm. Papa was a Rolling Stone. It's 10 plus of us.
Wow, okay.
And so, and like my parents, my mother specifically, when you're at the house, you have to be prepared for the world. So we had to learn how to cook, clean, sew, like everything. So when you leave, it's not don't come back, but you're prepared.
Right.
But along the way, I watched her cook, and I saw all the time and effort and love that she put into the food and the meals that she made, because she cooked for 10 people every single day.
Wow.
And so I watched that, and I remember like some of the meals that she made. One of my favorite cakes is a pineapple coconut cake.
Okay.
That's the first thing I ever remember making her make. I mean, watching her make, and it had such an impact on how she made the cake, and it was time consuming. A lot of effort went into it. And I don't think she did it for us to say, oh, that's such a great cake. But I think that was her way of expressing her love to us. And so growing up, I learned cooking, and I just enjoyed it, and I love sharing in the same kind of way.
Okay.
And so along the way, that's, for me, food is love. That's how I see food, and it's a place where people get together and learn and live and love and share and all that.
Okay. I can definitely taste the love in this.
I taste the love. Yeah, so we lived in New Jersey, went to a church in New York. Pastor Bernard, he would always say your attitude determines your approach.
Okay.
And that's what made me think of that. And so, but related to that, I wanted to know if therapy and our faith can kind of coexist.
Absolutely.
Should they be there to help one another, or is one more prevalent than the other? Like, how do we make them work together?
Honestly, I think they're one and the same. And what I mean by that is this. What you believe will govern your reality.
Okay.
Right? I may see something a certain way based on how I believe. You may see something a certain way based on how you believe. Right? And that is going to form your perspective on things. So they have to kind of go hand in hand. Earlier you asked, how would you know you need to go talk to somebody, things aren't right? When you find that your behaviors, your thoughts are not consistent with your beliefs, that's when you really should discuss something with somebody, because there's some imbalance there. that would be a reason to go, just talk to somebody, because you're trying to figure out, why am I having these thoughts? This is not me. This is not what I really truly believe. So why am I having these type of thoughts?
And the fact that you even notice that you're having those thoughts,
Right,
is that, hey, go talk to somebody about this.
but your beliefs, they dictate whether you're healthy mentally. All right.
Okay.
If you have someone that has a mental health issue, based on their beliefs, they may take actions that don't actually fit society.
For example, like what?
School shooters,
Wow, or suicide. Stuff like
suicide,
that.
absolutely. So your beliefs have a strong background, a background influence on what you do. As far as your faith, though, I would think that, and I can really only speak for myself with this. Spirituality is a big component of everything that I do. Right, I feel like what I do has to have purpose, and my purpose is based in my spirituality, and how I worship. What I've been taught by those that came before me. All of those things are very instrumental in how I approach life. And so if you can't align your actions with that, then there's an issue.
That requires work, though.
It does. Everything requires work. Right.
Yeah,
That's the one thing that we have to really understand and get back to. There are no easy ways of doing anything. Everything requires effort. One of the most prevalent things I see now with a lot of young kids. When I was a little kid, I dreamed about being in the NFL.
Okay.
This started when I was probably 6 years old. And so I'll ask kids that come in, what's your dream? What do you want to be when you grow up? And when they're 6 or 7, they'll say, astronaut, or some now say, I want to be an influencer, right? But they have ideas of what they want to do. Now, when I talk to the adolescents, the 15-year-olds, the 16-year-olds, okay, what is it that you want to do? I don't know. Right? So by the time they're 15 and 16, they stop dreaming. That's a scary thing. That's a really scary thing. It's like, how can you be 15 years old and not have a dream?
It's not all bad, though, is it? Do you think sometimes parents will get in the way of their dreaming, saying, hey, I want to steer the kids a certain way? Like, the kid may hate football, but because he's a big kid, the parent goes, I see NFL. I see my NFL check.
Right. And even, sometimes parents actually, and not just parents, but just, adults in general that are around kids, they recognize a talent in them early. But it doesn't mean that's the only talent that the kid has.
Right.
But because it's the one that's easily recognizable, that's the direction that they're pushed in. And that's for most of us. Most of us don't even discover that we have other talents till we're in our mid-20s or 30s. Because that's, when we really get a chance to kind of explore things. Now we're adults. You're not under the supervision of someone else so much. And so you start thinking about, what is it exactly that I want to do? Right? But our personalities are set around 12, 13 years old.
And they're just set.
They're set. So,
Like
for all
set.
the parents out there, right? You want to influence your kids early, because after about 12 or 13, they're going to be influenced more so by the environment, their peers, what they're learning in school, because they typically are spending more time with those people than they are with you. And so we're kind of set in what our personalities are going to be, and we start to choose what we gravitate to around that age. Right. But we're not.
But it's not set in stone. That's
It's not
just
set in stone.
Your personality more
Absolutely.
than anything. Okay.
Yeah, it's not set in stone. Not saying that, okay, if you're somebody that's violent at 12, you're always going to be violent. Now, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But you kind of start to gravitate to what your personality is around that age. Yeah.
How do people find themselves in, like you said, your personality kind of gets set by your environment and all those things, but how do people find themselves and who they want to be and kind of find their way in life?
Well, first you have to find out if you've been allowed to. Right. The reality for a lot of people is that they're not able to be themselves. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is what I mean by that. Most people live life based on how you think. I'm thinking about how you think I should be.
Okay.
Instead of being focused on who I really am. Because everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to be received a certain way. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of been conditioned to think about not how do I see myself, but right. How do you see me? Because that's what's going to be.
And then they want to conform to that.
Right.
Okay. So what? So some of the extreme behaviors, do you think it's the people rebelling, saying, "I don't want to be that. I'm just going to go far left or right."
Sometimes
so I don't do that.
Yeah. Sometimes it really is.
Okay. And we're eating.
Okay.
Trying to be good. Nash, do you ever feel like, or have you ever, I know you're like A1 top shelf therapist, but have you ever got a diagnosis wrong? A treatment plan wrong?
Everybody has. I think any therapist that tell you that they haven't, you need to be concerned about that, right? Like I said earlier, it takes time to really get to know someone. One is dependent on how willing they are to really express their true feelings, right? Because you can be going one direction based on, your expertise, what you think you see, and then there's a left turn because you realize, they were saying this just because they didn't want to get really into, subjects that may hurt them more. And so, yeah, you can make a misdiagnosis. It shouldn't be a grave one, right?
Right.
So if somebody with anxiety and you diagnose them with schizophrenia, that's, you don't want to do something like that.
You're way off.
Yeah. But when you're doing diagnosis, there's a lot of weed outs that you have to do because there's so many symptoms that represent themselves in different mental health disorders. So you'll see the same symptoms in 8 or 9 different disorders. So you have to be able to weed out, okay, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this. And so that's a process also.
Can you tell me one getting therapy that everybody thinks that's not true?
All right. So let's I hate the word crazy, right?
Really?
It's the way that it's used.
Okay.
It's the way that it's used. It's spoken of as a derogatory term, right? We all, and when I say we all, yes, you too, we all could be diagnosed with something. Mm-hmm. There's not a person I've met that couldn't have a diagnosis of something. Because we all go through, difficulties. We all are stressed. We all have anxiety over one thing or another. In simple terms, and I know other therapists might have something to say about this, right? But in simple terms, anxiety is being concerned about something that hasn't happened yet, right? And it affects you because you're worried about something that could happen. Mm-hmm. Depression is usually set in you being concerned about something that did happen, and you're not able to let go of it.
Just that simple.
Just that simple. Now, there's more to it as far as on the treatment side, but as far as what it is, a simplified form, that's basically what that is. And for a lot of people, their issues are based in trauma. So when you are able to understand the trauma, then you can start working to get beyond it, learning to cope with it, manage it. Earlier you asked, can you cure something? I wouldn't necessarily say cure things, but you learn how to manage it.
Yeah. So you just said trauma. So we as people of color in America have a long history of trauma.
We certainly do.
And it passes from generation to generation. How do we deal with that?
So one of the things is we have to understand not only does it pass from generation to generation from a mindset standpoint, it does physically as well. Like DNA truly has memory.
Oh.
So we can experience some of our ancestors' trauma. They've proven it. And so because of that, we have to kind of guard against those things as much as we can, right? Sometimes we normalize things to a point where we don't even recognize that it's trauma, right? What we were saying earlier about, the gunshots. Okay, well, I think that was a 22. It was coming from the east, so that's not a threat, right?
Right.
That's not normal. That is not a normal thing.
We shouldn't be out there. Out there shooting again.
Right, but we have normalized that. So a lot of times we don't realize things have affected us traumatically. It comes out when we least expect it. I'll use this example. So driving, you're not a criminal. There's nothing in your car. You've done nothing wrong. You didn't violate any traffic laws. You hear sirens and you see red lights. What's your reaction? I'm checking.
Yeah, it's like...
Right? Am I good? But why?
Even though you already know.
You know you haven't done anything. Right? So that's traumatic. That's because of what we've witnessed over time.
Yeah, what we witnessed, what we experienced, what we know could possibly happen.
Absolutely. So that's that's one of those things. We normalize it, so we don't think that that's a trauma-induced thing, but it really is. Even though it didn't happen to us per se, we've seen it happen enough that now it's something that's embedded in our minds. So that's
on the other side of that, do you think that same police officer pulls you over with that mindset that this is how I should approach who's in the car? Oh, it's one of them.
They've been indoctrinated as well, right? Because if there's the narrative that is constantly going, he's dangerous. Mm-hmm. You have to be careful. They're violent, right? So that conditioned his thinking as well. So now that's my expectation when I encounter one of these people. That there's a possibility that they're going to be violent. There's a possibility that I could get hurt. Right? Most of the time when you hear these incidents, what's the first thing you hear them say as a defense? I fear for my life. Yeah. Right? Why is it that we both know that?
So I should have the same fear when you pulling me over. I fear for my life.
Absolutely.
I'm not stopping. I have to stop.
But why is there a fear? Have you been shot at before when you pull somebody over?
No.
Or is that something
just know that's what I'm supposed to say.
conditioned to think?
Yeah.
Right.
It could happen.
Right. So
when
I fear for my life.
I didn't mean to cut you off. When your friends call you like, hey, let's go out and get something to eat, do you find yourself being the person they want to eat with you, but you're hey man, let me run this by you. And my girl is acting up.
All right. So,
do you ever get that?
I try to separate.
How do you separate that?
Yeah, I try to separate those things, right? As counselors, we're not allowed to counsel our friends officially.
Okay.
Right? They can't come to the practice and we bill for those type of things. But outside of that, can we give advice? Yes. Yeah, we can give advice. But I never actually considered that counseling, even though it is, right? But yeah, the hardest thing to do is in those situations, separate yourself from the friendship. Because a lot of times your friend want to hear what they want to hear, but not what they actually may need to hear. So
it's 6 months later, man, I told you to leave her.
Right. It can be difficult.
What do you think I should do?
And it can put you in a precarious situation. So I try not to when it comes to friends, but there are times where, as a friend, man, maybe you might want to consider this.
Yeah. Well, same thing for your household. How do you manage to just be a husband and a father and leave that stuff at the office?
Wow. So that would be a question for my family. Because honestly, I haven't judged myself on how well I've done with that or not. Right. Okay. I try to leave the office at the office. when I come home, I always give myself an hour to kind of wind down.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something I suggest that everybody do. Take an hour out of your day. I know it seems sometimes impossible, right? But take an hour out of your day just for you. That's not focused on something that you need to do for somebody else. Do something that you enjoy doing for that hour, just for yourself, right? So that it gives you a chance to kind of get back to baseline, so you can go back to being the person that you need to be for others. But most of us don't give ourselves, that time. But it's very important to do that.
Well, how do we get the people on the other end of that to give you that time? Do you demand it? You just take it?
You have to explain it to them. Look, for me to be the best that I can be for you, I have to take care of me as well. Okay. I need this time to myself so that I can be at my best. It's just that simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't go in the house and just slam the door.
No.
I'll be back out later. Leave me alone. I got you.
Yeah.
We're eating still. Earlier you mentioned your grandmother. Mm-hmm. How important is the village for our mental health?
Oh, man.
Like for we as people of color, and I don't want to separate things racially, but culturally, people just do things different.
Right. It's everything. We come from an ideology of group first, right? And honestly, I think some of the issues that we deal with is because we're trying to force ourselves into a way of living that is not naturally conducive to who we are. What I mean by that is, we live in a capitalistic society, right? And so that kind of is a every man for himself type of system. We've traditionally, always looked at the group.
Yeah.
Right. This is how we can have cousins, right, that aren't blood related.
Yeah, have a few.
Right. Myself, my aunt just loved people. She adopted several kids. Right. There's no distinction in us between those that were born in the family and those that were adopted into the family. We've never looked at it as any type of difference.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we do as a people. We take each other in. We help each other up when we can. At least that's what we used to do.
That's what we used to do.
Right. That was what came natural to us. And now we've kind of drifted away from that to every man for himself. And that's not a natural thing for us. So that affects our mental health as well.
Do you think that's why we have issues with it? Like you become successful by somebody else's standards, but instinctively you want to reach back and somebody will tell you, no, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
You got to look out for yourself.
Right.
But that's my family right there. You got to look out for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, of course you want to do what's correct, mm-hmm. Right? You don't want to do things at your own peril, but what's the good of having all of these material things, right? That they tell us that we should chase after, if you don't have the people that you care about there to share it with.
To share it with you, yeah.
That's not a natural thing. The same thing with our wisdom. Our elders possess the wisdom that we need. One of the things that I knew was different about me as a kid is while some of my cousins, they want to go out and play and do everything, get into everything that they can. While I love sitting at my grandfather's feet, right, and my great uncles. I could sit and just listen to them talk for hours. Yeah, and I know it's benefited me because it's stuff now that I draw from that my grandfather told me when I was 10 years old. Right, didn't make sense to me at all then because I couldn't quite comprehend it, but makes perfect sense now. And just having that village that is there for you when you need them. Talking about the rite of passage, that we spoke about earlier. Yeah. Young black men especially, young women as well, but young black men especially need that because there's no official transition anymore from being a boy into manhood.
Yeah.
It's really not there. So a lot of times they don't know what that is. right? And how it affects the young women is that they don't know what it is either. So if I don't know what a man looks like, I'm willing to accept anything that kind of resembles what I think it looks like.
Yeah. And you said you were a man, so it must be.
And therein lies the problem. You know, our families have been under attack from the beginning. You know, and people don't like to talk about it, but if it's anything that has affected us as a community more than anything else, it's the destruction of the black family.
Yeah.
You know,
How do we get the black family back in its rightful place?
Communication, patience, you know, understanding that I don't have to see everything the exact same way as you do. We can have different perspectives and still be in agreement on one subject. On the subjects that we can agree upon, okay, we can, you know, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to escalate into anything because we don't have the same thought process on it.
Yeah, we never will because we're individuals.
Right. You know, everybody wants to make our community monolithic, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen people try and fail at defining what's black.
If you're black, you should be this way.
Right. But truthfully,
You're a little bit too well spoken for a black guy.
yeah. And they'll say that and feel like it's a compliment.
And all it really means is, oh, I understand you, so you know, you're a little like me, so let me take away from your blackness,
Right.
which is kind of an insult.
Right. But, you know, like I said, I've watched people try and fail. You know, what is black?
Yeah, what is
My
it?
answer would be everything. Truly,
Everything?
Truly everything.
Has his finger on everything in the world.
Everything.
Everything.
What influences more than black in the world right now?
Nothing. Did you know 2024 Summer Olympics, they will have breakdancing as an event?
No, that I did know that. All right.
That's blackity black.
Absolutely. You know,
But all countries have it.
absolutely. I pride myself in being the same age as hip hop.
No.
Right. I really do.
Yeah.
Because we've reached everywhere in the world. There's nowhere in the world you can go and not hear hip hop music. That means
Or
something.
see its influence.
Right.
Nowadays, kids, oh, I saw it in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
No.
It came from other
Yeah.
places, right?
Came
Other
from
sources.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I take pride in that because, you know, we have to get out of the mindset of thinking that we're less than, right? And that's part of the challenge. Like I said, we have a lot of issues that stem from trauma, and part of that is thinking that somehow we're less than, and we're not.
What's one thing I could do to build my self-esteem where that's concerned?
Challenge yourself and not be afraid to fail. Like, failure is like kryptonite to most
Yeah.
people, right? Not
Yeah.
realizing that you learn more from failure than you do from success.
You absolutely do. And I learned that fear will keep you in the very place you're trying not to be.
Absolutely.
Because you're scared you won't move, so you're just stuck there.
Absolutely.
You're scared to try, so you're still stuck there.
I have a saying that I tell myself all the time, right? And it's part it's part from the movie Luke Cage. And then it's part from Marcus Aurelius, right?
Okay.
So the saying is, that which stands in the way becomes the way. Forward, always forward. Right? And so what that means to me is, face the problem head on. Right? I'm going to learn more from going through this than I ever would with trying to get around it. Right? The experience that I'm going to have going through this problem is going to be something that will benefit me later.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm always looking forward. I can't change what happened in the past. Right? If you're sitting in a car, what's bigger, the rearview mirror or the windshield?
Windshield, you need to be able to see what's in front of you.
Absolutely. They only put this little 4x4 inch rearview mirror there just so you can see where you left from.
Yeah.
That's it.
But we still do need to be reminded of our past to make sure.
Absolutely. That's
We
that's
don't
why
revisit it.
it's there, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to look back and remember who you are,
Yeah.
right? But it's not as important as where you're going.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So you don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can dig it. Excuse me. If you could tell me one thing I could do, I don't know if I asked you this, if you could tell me one thing I could do to improve my mental health today, what would it be? Would it be the affirmations or would it be something else?
All right. So one thing that I use a lot with my clients is
If this is stuff people got to pay for, don't say it.
oh no, not at all. It's a power hour, right?
Hour.
And so you can break it into whatever segments you like, but typically do 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, right? You want to do 20 minutes of learning something that you might have been interested in, but something new to you, actually learning something. Then you want to take 20 minutes for exercise. All right, do something physical that's going to stress you a little bit. Right, doesn't have to be a monster workout, but do something that's going to stress you a little bit physically, and then have 20 minutes of prayer or meditation or however you center yourself. Try doing that every day, and see how your life changes. It gets you off to a better start to your day. You're gonna have more energy. You're gonna be a little bit more focused.
So take an hour for yourself at the beginning of your day, not the end, because you want to start your day.
You want to start your day like that,
moving yourself forward in the right direction.
right? Because again, it's perception. So if you start out, it's just gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's gonna be. They might happen, but you may not be as reactive to it because you already started in a positive mindset.
So you can choose to have a good day.
You can choose every day.
You can choose everything.
Right. You can't change your circumstances immediately, right? But you can change how you respond to it.
Yeah. And you can still have a good day in some not so pleasant circumstances.
Absolutely. The one thing that we are in control of is how we react to things. All right. And so sometimes it takes some discipline to get to the point where, you know what, I'm not going to let that cause me to respond in a negative way.
Is there a difference between a reaction and a response?
The only difference I would say is the amount of thought that's put into it.
Okay.
There's not much thought put into a reaction.
Just like a knee jerk.
Right. That's more instinctive.
Yeah.
A response, you should think about how you respond to things. And then choose what it is that you respond to. Because everything doesn't, garner a response. Everything's not deserving of a response. Right? You can use that time and energy for something else.
How do you learn to say, that's not important, let me just let that go? Because some people can't.
Yeah, that's true. But you can learn to do it.
You can learn.
It takes practice. It just takes practice. It's
Start
just
your day with the power hour.
learning how to pause before you respond to something. What's the outcome of this? Always look at things with the end in mind, right? What's the most likely thing that's going to happen if I respond in this way or that way? And then I can think about, okay, what's my best response?
Okay. I'm going to try that. I'm not a reactionary person like that, but I'm going to still try to improve my patience.
And believe it or not, I had to learn to be that way, right? When I was 12, 13 years old, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this now, but it's my reality, right? I had a 7-second rule. So I didn't like people looking at me, right? I had some insecurities because, I didn't come from money, that type of thing. And I had a lot of classmates who did. And so somebody stared at me for 7 seconds. Oh, that's a fight. I'm offended now. I feel disrespected, right?
You're staring at me.
Yeah, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
But I learned that was all based in fear.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm worried that they can actually see my insecurities. It's not about what I look like on the outside. I'm thinking they can see that I'm really insecure.
See right through you.
Right. But I had to put on this front that I'm tough. I don't tolerate all this type of stuff. But that was a protection measure, so people wouldn't see that I'm really sensitive, and I like poetry. That type of stuff, right? And so, I created a persona to protect me from who I really was. And we do that sometimes as adults.
Yeah. Or we try to keep up with the Joneses.
Absolutely.
Just so I can look like them and
Right.
just.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
It is, but a lot of people go through life concerned with how things appear to be instead of being concerned with how they are. All right? Because again, we're in a society that pushes us towards success is based on what you can accumulate instead of being successful in who you are and understanding yourself and your nature. So,
Well, I would agree on that note. We'll end there. Put yourself first.
yes, sir. Every holy book I've ever read says, know thyself.
Know thyself. Jason, my man, I appreciate you having lunch with me and welcoming us in. Listen, where can people find you?
Excuse me. The practice is Phoenix Family Services. Our website is www.phoenixfsi.com.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram as allmental365. And that's pretty much all I have as far as social media.
Okay. As always, it is our goal to share good people, good food, good conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you next time.